Well, that was a clip from the new documentary, Fanatical, the catfishing of Tegan and Sara, making its world premiere at TIFF. Now, audiences will learn about how indie pop artist Tegan Quinn has been the victim of identity theft for over 15 years.
That's right, I know. Here today to chat more about how the experience affected both of them. Welcome back to The Social, Tegan and Sara.
Is it Tegan and Sara? Is it really here? Is it real Tegan and Sara?
Well, Tegan, okay, so we mentioned that clip, what you ended up referring to as Tegan, which is fake Tegan. So walk us through the moment you found out that someone was impersonating or pretending to be you online.
So in 2011, Sara called me. I was out, and she said, you need to change all your passwords. And her and my management had been trying to get a hold of me for a couple hours, and basically a fan had reached out, a trusted fan who had said, a friend of mine has been talking to Tegan for years. It's gotten kind of weird, passed on all this information. And my managers and Sara were like, that's not Tegan. So they called me and they were like, have you been talking to this girl, Julie, sending her music? And I just was like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. And sort of what unspooled over the next couple of years was a massive catfishing scheme of this person that we called Fegan, or fake Tegan, who had duped lots of fans into thinking they were friends with me, or in some cases having a relationship or a sexual relationship with me. And then it just proceeded to get worse. You know, over the next couple of years, we found out that someone was actually in my email pretending to be me, so they had been talking to my friends, and that's how they'd gotten so much personal information about me. And yeah, it was, we called it like, it was like bed bugs. You know, like trying to get the person out. But then it was also kind of like an assault all the time, because it's like you're trying to get rid of the bed bugs, but then new information would come in and you'd have to start all over again. So it was very, very overwhelming. And I feel so awful that this happened to so many people.
So Sara, what did you think when Tegan was like, I'm gonna go public with this story?
You know, initially I was a little bit nervous. We have sort of treated this Fegan situation as something really private. We have acknowledged to our fan base, using social media and message boards, we've definitely told them, like, no, if you think you're talking to one of us, you're not. Like, we've sort of very casually put that out there over the last decade plus, but I felt embarrassed of this. I felt uncomfortable. I felt like this was like something, I don't think Tegan did anything wrong, but somehow this made it.
I get the feeling that Sara thinks I might have contributed to this a little bit. We don't think Tegan did anything wrong.
But I didn't feel like she didn't contribute to this somehow. Like, there was this kind of feeling like if we just don't talk about it, maybe it will go away. Also, there was real, genuine fear and anxiety about it, and it would just come back over and over and over again. And this was sort of like a part of a larger, I guess, like sea change in our world, where we went from being like really familiar and friendly and sort of having no boundaries with our fans to a time in our career where we became much more successful, and they're just like, were natural boundaries in place. Like the time that we figured this out about the original sort of Fegan leak, if you will, this was like, we were touring with Katy Perry and on the Academy Awards. Like, we were really public at the time. And so it felt very natural to say, okay, we've clearly been too intimate with our audience. We need to like, we need to sort of like put a boundary between us, because people are taking it too far. But yeah, it's unbelievable. It's been going on this long. We still think it's going on. It's still happening. It gets crazy.
Can we talk? I mean, it's an intense film. And there's a really intense scene where you have a phone call with the person who at the time you are suspecting is the catfish, the person faking being Tegan. And Tegan, in the call, they ask you why this scheme even matters, because, I quote, it doesn't affect you. So what would you say to that statement?
Yeah, look, I mean, I talked to a lot of victims over the making of the film, and everybody had really different reactions, but I'd say those that had a sexual or romantic relationship with fake Tegan tended to be a little more hostile, a little more vulnerable. Their violation was off the charts, you know. I think it was harder for them to accept that it wasn't me. And so that conversation you're talking about was a really difficult one for a number of reasons. That person had done a lot of really nefarious things, you know, gone online and accused me of grooming underage fans, distributed stolen songs and materials, naked photos, like really crazy things. But they were also a victim of fake Tegan, and that was a really complicated position for us to be in, having that conversation with them. But we also, a lot of people suspected that they were involved in the situation. And yeah, to have them basically imply that all of these horrible things that had happened and all of the effects of all of this, that it didn't at any point penetrate this wall of fame and success or whatever, like, was wild. Like, it took the air out of me. I just couldn't believe that.
I mean, it was not great imagination on that person's part, too, because, I mean, the fact was there were rumors going around on message boards, and like, there were all these stories being spun around you in certain circles that were not true, and not to mention the idea that people thought they were in relationships and so on. The movie is really fascinating in that you sort of are going along and you're like, is it this person? Is it that person? And I have a theory, as I'm sure you do. Like, well, actually, that's the question. Are you any closer to actually identifying who Tegan was and also what their motivation was?
You know, I was singularly obsessed with why. More important to me wasn't unmasking fake Tegan and finding them. It was just trying to understand why someone would do this.
Money or
they weren't extorting money. They really weren't, that we know of. Since we announced the film, so many more people have come forward. So, I mean, who knows when we get to the bottom of that. But I was much more interested in the why, and we did work with a lot of really amazing, you know, behavioralists and investigators, and I felt I got a better understanding of why someone would do this. We have a profile of what we think this person, or who we think this person is. I firmly believe that I've talked to fake Tegan a number of times. I think that I feel very confident on who it is, and I was catfished by that person. They convinced me it wasn't them. But I feel like we uncovered new evidence, and I feel very sure of where we stood. And Sarah put it really eloquent the other night. We know who it isn't now, and that changed everything. Right. Because we worried this was someone we knew, and I feel very, very confident it's not my mom.
Very good. Very good. So recently, and she's been in the news a lot, Chapel Rowan has put out a statement about fans and boundaries, naming specifically predatory behavior. And, you know, she talked a little bit like how there's a lot of super fan behavior that's become very unnerving. So is this moving in the right direction? Should more artists be putting these kinds of boundaries in place?
I think so, and I want to also say that while I think it is exciting and empowering to see an artist like Chapel Rowan say something that we were really afraid to say all these years, I also think that there is a responsibility, not just on the fans and the artists. It is the industry around us, the industry that makes money on turning us into celebrity endorsers and content creation and selling pictures and videos of people having their walk from the courthouse after they just filed divorce papers or whatever. Like, we are an industry obsessed with celebrity. You know, people make money off of this stuff. And so we can't exactly like yell, I mean, we can. Fans shouldn't behave this way. The way that Chapel Rowan is talking about, that is inappropriate. But it's not so different from the way that the paparazzi acts. So if we see adults behaving this way to other adults and making money and getting rich off of it, how can we expect our fans to not think that that behavior is cool?
Okay.
Like, you know?
What a fascinating, it's a fascinating journey. Thank you for giving us a little teaser, because I think now that everybody's going to want to watch this. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you so much.
And sharing your story. So the world premiere of Fanatical, the catfishing of Tegan and Sara, is happening tonight at the Toronto International Film Festival. It will also then be streaming on Disney Plus October the 18th, which is super cool.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.